Okay. I hope that captured a good smile. I hope I didn't blink. Hello. Are we in? It says we're live,
Yes.
so. All right. Let's get this party started. Hello, everybody. Karen here, hosting.
Hello.
I'm here today with my lovely partner, Tina. So we're just jumping on today because we've been having like this amazing and influx of clients that we are clearing energetically. For whatever reason, it's like we're clearing all of Venezuela and the Asian community.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like a neighborhood in New York somewhere.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like we've been very fortunate enough to have amazing people that have come in. Referrals are obviously the best compliment that we can ever get. And we do feel very thankful for one client in particular who has graciously forwarded his entire family to us. And yeah, we've had some pretty intense sessions as of late, a lot of trauma healing. We saw a lot of like negative ET experimentations. We've had a couple of kids too, which was nice, like a different variety of people, ages, experiences, traumas. Of course, traumas is always the basis of our world. And that's something that we like to touch up on, which is why um, we've been attracting these kind of people into our practice because, that is a big mirror to ourselves and our pathways. And what else have we been seeing?
I was just talking about that in the Quantum Healers Forum. There's a running thread that started last year about like feeling exhausted after sessions, like when you're first beginning your practice.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know about that. So tell me, what is that?
Well, it was an old thread, but someone just commented on recently, so it came back up. But she wrote something about her client triggering her own trauma that made her really uncomfortable. And it took her some time to like work through that. So she was attracting, people that were mirroring her, resonating with her. And I commented saying, like, what I found is that all of my clients mirror me in some way. Some of those mirrors are stronger than others, but I feel that's why it takes us some time to process after sessions, especially in the beginning as like you're clearing out some old stuff,
Right.
So when I first started doing BQH sessions, it would take me a week maybe to recover from one. It was really intense in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. And I remember you even saying, like, how the hell am I going to make this as my job if takes me a week, like that I could only do like 4 clients a month, and it's like, can't pay your bills with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. What I wanted to clarify too from our last, I think it was our last video, towards the end, we talked about channeling and how it's not really a good idea to channel. And the reason why we say this is because we've been seeing a lot of people recently in our practice that have opened themselves up to spirit without any protection at all, without any discernment at all, and when you do that, anything can come into your field, including false light beings, demons, reptilians disguised as Pleiadians, all of these different things that we've seen.
Hmm.
Um, you know, when people first awaken, I used to do it too. It's not like I'm exempt from this, but when we learn and grow in our spirituality, then we gather more information and strengthen our discernment. And so that's why we share these things with you. It's not to discourage anybody, and it's not to say we're never here to tell you what to do or what not to do. We're just here to share with you what we've learned. If you have the spiritual growth and discernment to do those things, then go for it. But if you're not sure and like some people just open themselves up without protection, and what happens is all of these different energies and entities come into their field, and it sends them into a spiritual psychosis. They literally become psychotic from the entities that come into their field because they're just so wide open, not using any discernment, trusting everyone, including humans and spiritual beings. Um, and when you allow another energy to come into your body, in order to channel that energy, you're also fusing with their energy. So you're allowing that being, not fully knowing, I mean, we never really fully know who they actually are, to come into your body, to use your physical vessel in order to bring through whatever information they want. Now, a lot of people are just tapping into this fourth dimensional energy, this stream of energy that surrounds Earth. That's why you hear like coming through a lot of different channelers, kind of like just the same information over and over and over again. And it's
Hmm.
not, there's no real variation there because it's just the same stuff kind of recycled over and over and over. Now, some people like diviners, like voice diviners, they train for years and years and years in order to be able to do things like that, like with the Candomblé diviners. Um, and, they don't just jump right into it wide open. Like they're trained by the indigenous cultures on how to. Um, so, you know, we, we don't mean to discourage anyone from connecting with spirit in general. We're just telling you what we've learned. And what we've learned is that it's best at this time, specifically for what we're going through right now, and all of the intense and different energies that are flooding the earth plane. Because the astral realm, where all of these entities exist, is moving closer to the earth. And as it moves closer, we're going to have more and more contact with these entities. And also because, you know, these beings, they know that they're on their way out. And because they're unable to create on their own, they have to use humans to siphon that energy. And because they're unable to take physical form, they will use the human body in order to become embodied and then work that energy through the human vessel. So that's why we say, like, if you're going to connect with spirit right now, unless you already have a really good connection with your own spirit guides, your own family of light, and your own higher self, then really the best thing to do is to channel your own self, like your own higher multidimensional aspects of you, your Christed self, your ascended master self, because they're there. It's just a matter of connecting with them instead of just any, random being that shows up, because they will show up. And it can be really dangerous. It can be really, really dangerous. We've seen a lot of people that are spiraling into a spiritual psychosis. Their whole life falls apart because they didn't have the discernment. You know, it could even happen with um, automatic writing and things like that. When you allow other spirits to come through you, that isn't your own higher self. It could happen. It could start like as simply as that. And that's kind of why we're here, and what our mission is to kind of bridge that gap and to say it doesn't have to be scary, but you do have to use your discernment, you know, like be discerning of the spirits and beings that you allow into your field, because this really is about being sovereign. And being sovereign is to be in your own energy and your own energy only, and understanding how powerful your energy is in and of itself, and that you don't need any other being outside of you in order to bring in that powerful energy. You are that powerful. So, you know, a lot of what we do in quantum healing hypnosis is technically channeling, but it's channeling your own higher being, you know, and trusted guides that you already know and have a relationship with, and you have vetted them, and you know that they are who they say they are, and you have that relationship and trust. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know some people may have been a little bit offended by us saying, you know, not to channel. I've heard that other people are saying that as well. And there's a really good reason for it. It's because people's lives are falling apart because they have channeled without protection and without using their discernment. And because the astral realm is moving closer and it's easier for these beings to get in, because um, people that are awakening are a little bit naive in their spirituality. And, you know, we've all been there. So there's no judgment. It's just about education and, um, yeah, just sharing what we've learned throughout our journey, and not to, um, what's it called? Not to discourage. You know, we don't want to discourage anyone from connecting with spirit or connecting with your own higher being, but definitely use protection and use your discernment and vet every being that you connect with. And there are videos we have about how to do that. So using the universal law of three and asking them, are you of the highest Christed light? And you ask that question 3 times the exact same way, and they have to answer you truthfully, because they're bound by the laws of the universe. And if they don't, or if you get a funny feeling, then you shut that door, and that's that. You know, you don't have to communicate with every being that shows up. So I just wanted to clarify that. Anything you want to add?
Um, yeah, no, I think yeah, that's really important, because I think, like, as people are coming into the spirituality stuff, it's really exciting. You do all the exciting things like channeling, the ninth dimensional Arcturian, and you're like, oh my God, are you really talking from me? And
Right.
then it's like, I don't, again, people might get offended, but just recognize that, your offense is probably your spiritual ego. So check yourself. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't know what the hell I channeled back in the day. Like, it's just, I don't know. I really don't. So it's just kind of like I guess, thankfully, through the work that we're doing, like, we're able to sharpen and sharpen and sharpen and sharpen and check and check and check. And I've done like a lot of, even to a point where, like, when I've checked our guides and they've passed all the tests, somehow something happens, like, like, it's happened a few times, like, their eyes turn all black, and I'm like, okay, this is stupid, like, so I close the door and I get really frustrated. So I'm like, that lesson in it was just like, sometimes you just can't trust anything outside of yourself. You really can't. And you really have to come in and trust your own higher knowing, like Tina was saying before, like, and to use those instead because you have all the information. We don't need any other information outside of us that we don't already have. So if you are able to access it, I think like what may block people is the access point of within, but that's also in correlation to how much are you able to heal within yourself to clear all of that density and things like that that are kind of stored within. So, the whole spiritual uh, game, I guess, if you will, it's like a little bit of all of it. It's just like you have to be able to balance your human self and your spiritual self and be able to integrate both so that you can be so spiritual. I don't know what that means, but like,
Well, I think too, like there's a race to be more spiritual, it's like, um, what beings are you connected with and like all of that kind of stuff. And
and you can spot the spiritual egos like when you watch these people on YouTube. I mean,
yeah,
like just like when they're all talking about it, like, oh yeah, I like we asked for to be abducted, and so we went into the ship and we talked to the gray, and I'm like, oh my God, that doesn't sound good. It
right,
really doesn't sound good at all. Like it just doesn't feel good.
right.
I
Well,
believe their experience, but it's like, ooh,
right. There are a lot of lower dimensional beings that are actually, their DNA is distorted. They're actually lower than us in density. When people are channeling them through, they may have the information, they may have the technology, but they don't have the heart. They don't have the full package like humans have. And so when you bring that energy through your body, you're distorting your own DNA by connecting with that being. So that's why it's so important to have that discernment. And um, they've advanced through using technology. Like they've taken that path, say the Greys, for instance, they've taken that path. They used to be human, and they took the path of AI and transhumanism and advancing themselves through technology, and they ended up where they are now without an emotional body, without a heart center. They're all mind and logic and reasoning, but they're completely disconnected from the heart, and that's why they can abduct humans and not feel a thing about it. And that's why that's why they're doing it, to try to reclaim their humanness. And that's what the hybrid program is about as well. So yeah.
yeah. And also, it doesn't really matter like what dimension. I mean, like, be like, oh, well, mine's 12D. I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, could be a 12D alien, like negative ET. Like, you don't know. Like, especially in this thing, it's all
Right,
tiers and who's higher and blah, blah, blah. Like,
right. And like you
doesn't
said,
matter.
humans are just so excited to be talking to something, like, oh, you're an angel, you want to talk to me, and so that
Yeah, you
could be
feel
a false,
special.
you feel special, and they'll make you feel really special and really puff up your ego and tell you how amazing and important and special you are, and you're the only one. And so then, that makes you feel really good about yourself. So you're going to continue to connect with that being. Um, but you
Yeah,
just have to be careful,
yeah,
because true ascended master or Christed being will never like inflate your ego. They will, of course, support you, and you will feel that unconditional love for them, but there will also be a balance there in the energy. And you have to be careful about getting caught up in that stream, that ego that just wants so badly to connect with a spirit being, or something outside of you. So,
yes. So that's another level of self awareness, the spiritual ego.
So yeah, like Karen said, we had some really interesting sessions, and I find myself like writing these emails after the sessions, and I'm like,
God bless her.
am I really saying this right now?
Yeah, what was
Like,
the funny one? I forgot what you said. You read it to me after the whole thing, and I was just like, oh
whoa.
my God. Put that on a t-shirt. Like it's like crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. So after our RSR sessions, if they're pre-recorded, we send people like a little tiny synopsis about what
Yeah.
happened with the recording. So this one said,
Huh.
in brief, the major things we found included a huge cord/curse that went back over 100 years in your ancestry. There was a male ancestor that was infringed upon by negative ETs, and this brought in an anti-life particle that was passed down through the generations. This particle affected the mental and physical aspects of the humans involved by causing mental torture, destabilizing and sabotaging the organic human experience. Multiple dark force entities were also found within the body and organs with this black tar anti-life substance contributing to your physical health issues, feelings of depression, and disconnection. All was cleared and healed, and organic connection re-established. There were also multiple other infringements, including a level 2 DFE hooked into the head, back, and neck with silver rings and implants in the spine and inner etheric field. There was also a past life of poverty where you exchanged an aspect of your soul to bring wealth and health to your family. These contracts and curses were broken, and the soul was retrieved and healed.
Yay. Doesn't it sound like a happy ending? I know it sounds a little overwhelming. I mean, like, I even feel it, like when I'm in it, I go in and I have to report what I see to Tina or what I feel, all my senses, all of it. Sometimes I'm stumped or I'm just staring at it. I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, well, how am I going to explain that? Or I'm already thinking about her typing it in brief and writing all this stuff that I'm about to spill out and say. So yeah, I try as much as possible to make it as clear. I don't try to analyze as much, but I do know my patterns and how I read things so that I like how they show it to me because I feel the guides really want to show me what it means and how I could interpret it. It is an interpretation, right? But as clearly as I possibly can. So they could be very detailed with how they show it to me from my understanding. Sorry, go.
I just wanted to add real quick before I forget about connecting with spirit beings. You do not need to allow them into your body in order to connect with them. You can connect telepathically, consciousness to consciousness, without allowing them in to your physical body. That's what Karen does when we're connecting with our guides. She's receiving information telepathically.
I
That
thought
is,
that's what channeling was. No. Oh yeah, channel. Okay, sorry, go.
yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's more of the safest way to connect is to have telepathic communication and not allowing beings into your body. Um, but yeah, so speaking of uh, like really crazy sessions, we had a session for a 6-year-old tonight that her mom wrote us and said that she's been having difficulties ever since she was born. Like she said, she could see the anger in her eyes, even as an infant, and she was just really inconsolable. And she would have outbursts of what felt like anger uh, and had a really difficult time the first few years in her life. She also developed this bad smell and reminding you that she's only 6 years old. So that's really abnormal. So she actually wrote asking for a surrogate session, a BQH session, and I was like, she has all the red flags of attachments. She was having night terrors like all the time.
Mm.
So that's a red flag. Also, the anger is definitely one, and the bad smell. So those are three major red flags that there's attachments going on. Um, and what we saw was just like
Extra.
really extra. It made me angry. I was just like in my head, like these mother, like seriously, how can you, like, I can't wrap my mind around how heartless you would have to be in order to do that to a child, you know?
Right. It was
It makes me
just,
so mad.
yeah.
So what we saw was that, so a lot of what's been coming up in our sessions too is this anti-life particle and the black goo, which we've been seeing more and more of.
Hmm.
And this girl's, hi Paul,
Yeah.
this girl's field
Oh,
was completely saturated in black goo. That was the first thing we saw. And we saw that this had started in utero. And when Karen talks about like trying to interpret like what the guides are showing her, they were showing her that it started in the womb. It was negative ETs, which we think were reptilian, right?
that was the closest thing. I mean, like, I did see the scaly skin and
Black eyes.
black eyes. In some ways, like, it kind of looked like a rhino, but it didn't have like the horns. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it looked like.
Yeah, so these beings were monitoring this child in the womb because they have some kind of database of what soul's DNA, something like that, some kind of database where they can monitor the souls coming in, and also some kind of technology where
God, it
they
reminded me of
can,
the looking glass technology.
right. And it's funny because when you said that, I flashed back to a video I saw the other day. I forget who it was, but it was someone that was taken up into a ship. And she said that they had this technology in the ship and they used it to look into the future as well. But it was kind of just like you described it, like it was um, this glass material with this stuff inside of it. So they know, like they can predict the souls that are coming in and the DNA that they're holding. So this little girl is holding dragon DNA
It felt like
from her.
more like a sacred dragon. You know, like how like it.
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I got like
What?
flash. No,
Go ahead.
because of how we were talking about like the dragon and like understanding like why that or whatever, but it was like as if it had come face to face with each other. The organic version of itself versus the inorganic anti-life version of itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was really complicated what was happening. She was so the reason why the mom felt anger like as a baby, as an infant, was because of what was happening in the womb and what they were doing to her. And she was traumatized from that. There were also like etheric abductions where they can take your astral body. Um, and so also on the mom side, there was the word that came up was dynasty and like the divine feminine energy. So she was holding two really special forms of DNA. And why did they want to, why were they so interested in her in that DNA?
I don't remember. Did I say it?
Well, it was like
I
it
don't
was really
remember.
complicated, but it was like
Yeah.
she could time that this little girl can
Oh,
time travel. So she's always like in her sleep, especially she's jumping through dimensions. And so what they did was they corrupted her DNA and put this thread through of inorganic AI kind of technology into her DNA so that when she did jump through the dimensions and travel, she would take that stream,
thread, huh?
that thread with her through the dimensions and then corrupt them all as she went through, right?
Right. Right. And her third eye was open so big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had placed like etheric implants, tracking devices, monitoring devices. They were collecting data on her, monitoring the brain activity. Like they would induce frightening dreams to monitor how the brain was receiving and processing that information. Um, yeah, it was really wild.
Yeah, and really interesting also in the house clearing too. Like there was like an etheric ship in her room so that they could just take her.
And the
Uh,
device in the wall, there was some kind of device in the wall they used to freeze time.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah. We're like, yeah.
yeah.
That
It's
was a
really
crazy one.
difficult to like explain in words what
Yeah,
actually was happening there.
I know. I was trying to find all my words.
Yeah. So they were monitoring her through her third eye. That's why they had it so wide open because when they would abduct her etherically, take her onto the ship or wherever they took her, they would open the third eye to see what I guess what she had seen in the past. And then they would sometimes not close it and leave it wide open. And they also made her split through these frightening experiences. They caused all these subpersonalities within her as well. So she had all of these splits.
Yeah, it was so
It
sad.
just, yeah, it just makes me so mad. That's why I'm like really glad that we're getting these kids. We did another session for a child the other day who had a really traumatic start to his life as well. Um, yeah, it just makes me so sad for them and to see like how they start out their life in suffering, you know. I just hope that with this intervention that it will bring them some relief, from what they've been through.
Right. And right before they hit the 7-year mark where they are
Yeah,
stamped, all
right.
stamped. What does that mean?
Well, yeah, before the personality is fully formed and all the patterns and programs set in at 7. Um, yeah, 6 is a good age to catch it and start to do the energy work so that it doesn't fully take hold.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good. Well, it felt good after because I was just like, thank God, like, like at the same time, as you're in it and you're just so upset about like what the hell you're seeing and how this poor child has been suffering. Um, there's some sort of like relief, like, okay, like we had some intervention, we were able to cut some cords, we were able to burn some contracts and all the things, dismantle all of those gadgets and whatnot. you know
Yeah.
what would be the recommendation, I guess, for people like this, like when they have things like that? I would definitely recommend, well, I guess we're doing a surrogate for her, so to go dig deeper. But yeah, I would do other sessions too, like down the line, just to ensure that they are still solid and clear and that there's nothing funny going on, because they still will sometimes be vulnerable, or their body's still trying to catch up to the energies, and they will find any vulnerable point to come in, right? To start it all up again, you know? So we want to prevent things like that from happening.
Yeah, and the bad smell that she had was related to those beings that were attached to her. That was actually their smell, their energy that was coming through her.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I feel really good about the intervention. You know, and the Divine Mother was there with her in the healing temple and was going to stay with her for the next several days, kind of creating like a space around her. And also what you talked about too was like a weighted blanket. So just helping, just holding her and helping her to feel safe in her body because she's been so unsafe for so long, really. Um, and I hope it will be helpful with the night terrors as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't want to scare the mom either, you know, like it was a lot of details. Um, but I feel like, you know, at least knowing that these things are gone, or that she at least has a resource, I guess, in us to help and assist to clear that out for her. You know, some people just don't, this happens to them and then they grow into adults and have no idea that this has happened to them in their childhood, and understanding why they're so traumatized.
Yeah, like how many adults are walking around traumatized and really have no idea why. Or they have glimpses of memories, but maybe don't even believe them because they're so out there, you know.
Yeah, and who the hell would believe them in this world? Our world is so like boxed in and small and closed. So I mean, like, to talk about alien stuff is a little bit like, whoa, you're out there.
So we saw something interesting too in another session about the moon. What was that about?
The
You
moon
remember?
that we saw, well, we've been seeing a lot of things that were related to the shot. So when it comes to the shot, there's a anti-life particles that are also injected. And we saw in this particular case, because Tina was asking, because we've seen in several recent readings too, all spread out different locations, um, that there are zombie-like energies that are roaming the town. It's just like, so she was asking, like, why are we seeing that, or you know, why is it more often, or what's happening there? And what I saw was like, it was just like the big full moon that just popped into my field like this. And I was just like, okay, well, usually when we think of full moon, we think like, you know, the water and how it affects people, you know, because we're all made of water. But in this negative, or in this inverted, what is it?
Matrix.
Yeah, matrix, the moon is not exactly what we think it is. But it is also waking up the artificial intelligence within the people that have the shot. So that is also what's causing them to jump out of body, and also what is pulling the fourth dimension closer to the earth, which is what's opening up this portal, or what it looks, I think it was, did we say portal? I don't know, but it's bringing it closer. So therefore, when that moon is full or getting fuller, it's opening bigger and bigger. The portal's getting bigger and bigger. And therefore, that's why all of these lower dimensional beings are coming through like zombie energy. So people
Mhm.
don't realize that there's like all these beings in the fourth dimension. They're not all good at
Most of
all.
them aren't. Yeah.
Yeah, majority of them are not.
Well, what I don't even think what is interesting is that they say that the matrix is projected from the moon. So the hologram is controlled from the moon by the reptilians. Supposedly that's supposed to be cleaned up, but I don't know. But what else is interesting is that I just read like 2 days ago about parasites, parasites that we can have within the body, and how they're actually increased in activity during the full moon. And so there's this specific parasite cleanse that you do during the full moon while they're extra active to kind of, I guess, like increase the healing, increase the chances of getting rid of them while they're extra active. So that reminds me then of like interdimensional parasites. If the parasites, because everything in the physical has a match in the non-physical, right? So if the actual physical parasites in the body are more active, then it would make sense that non-physical parasites and non-physical beings would be more active during the full moon, or just influenced by the moon in general, right? Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. But it's just fascinating when we're in it because I'm just like, wow, we've never seen that before. Let's see what,
Yeah. We've been seeing a lot of things that we've never seen before. Like, I feel like there's a lot of new things happening.
Yeah. I don't know if we've been taking a list. I need to get you a highlighter. So if you take notes, just like highlight it like that's new.
Um, Something else that was new from that session was there was a curse on this woman, but she was being shielded by her deceased grandmother, which we've never seen that before. We've never seen anyone actually being shielded in that way. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah. That was alive, so she was able to validate it for us like right away, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting too. So I wanted to ask you about that. The Earthbound, the grandfather Earthbound that was with her, the way you saw him was as if you were seeing like the snow on the TV. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Well, I've heard of other people, especially in um, sleep paralysis, in like episodes of sleep paralysis, they would
Mhm.
see beings like that that look like snow.
Oh, whoa. Because I've never even seen it myself. That was also first too.
Right.
What does
Yeah.
that mean? So they're what?
I don't know what it means exactly, but for him, he was like stuck in
Was he stuck in the
purgatory.
astral? Oh yeah, purgatory. Okay.
He was stuck in, yeah, so the astral, he was stuck in the astral. And I think his soul had degraded to that point because of the dark magic that he practiced in life. So I think there's a connection there with those other beings that show up in sleep paralysis episodes, maybe. Like they may be degraded human souls
Yeah.
that end up distorted from practicing things like black magic or, going to the other side, so to speak.
Yeah.
That maybe their souls become distorted and degraded. That's what my intuition was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought that was interesting. And he had also had attachments on him, a level 3 and a level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two sessions back to back were like heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. But she looked amazing after her session. She looked so much brighter and
Yeah, I love when that happens too, when we have live sessions, just like our client yesterday. It was so amazing just to see a transformation in somebody just within an hour. like how the life kind of comes back into themselves and their eyes are bright and they look lighter. So those are like really cool validations after our clearings, just how people feel different. I thought it was funny, like when we had for our client here, like, how do you feel? And she's like, strange. So it was as if like she has never felt that before, but for whatever reason, she was like, strange, but light, like good, you know? We're like, great,
Yeah.
just
Well, a
really
lot of
happy.
people do feel strange after all of their attachments are removed because they don't know what their energy feels like without all of that. You know, there
Yeah,
were multiple dark force entities, multiple earthbound souls, and you know, earthbound souls, especially unhealed souls, can have a lot of effect on humans. Like you may take on their addictions, their unconscious behaviors. You may feel, you know, physical pains in your body, depending on, you know, how they died or what kind of illnesses they lived with. There was this one session I watched the other day with William Baldwin, who was one of the pioneers of spirit releasement. And I think I showed you that video of the woman who she was having issues with overeating
okay.
and was really depressed and um, just couldn't seem to get motivated. And she felt like there was another energy with her and she was really, really, really struggling. And so when Dr. Baldwin like tapped into her and had her bring that other energy forward, it was an earthbound soul that was attached to her that actually had been watching her for a while and attached to her when she started um, healing herself because she wanted to, the earthbound wanted to experience the healing as well. But so her energy was influencing this woman to overeat and to struggle with her weight and
Yeah,
all of
that was
those kinds
crazy.
of symptoms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, earthbounds can have a huge effect on you. Um, yes, the
Over.
moon supposedly has bases on it, reptilian bases, and supposedly the like the matrix hologram is being projected from the moon itself. So, and if you think about it, the moon has a major effect on the earth just by the way it influences the water, and it's almost like it's a really huge effect on the feminine as well, you know, because women can cycle with the moon. And I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, like a good energy. Um, I think there's a lot of negative influence that comes from the moon. So I no longer like charge my crystals in the moon or anything like that. I think there's a lot of negative influence on the earth that comes from the moon. You guys have any other questions? How are you guys doing? Paul and Helen. I'm feeling a lot of pain in my body. I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah. I've been like heavily triggered, like inner child, more stuff the last few days. Emotional release.
Yeah. I definitely feel like a purging happening. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to support my body, you know, assisting with the purging. So I'm actually taking some like anti-parasitic herbs to help with that. And I think there's a full moon soon. So uh,
Yeah.
so many questions.
Mhm. We'll
Thanks for
wait, Paul.
hanging out with us, guys. Huh?
I said, we'll wait, Paul.
Oh, tell them about your dream last night.
Oh yeah, it was a crazy dream. I we were going to this room. Tina and I were going to this room, and it was as if we were kind of with the aid of a woman. I think it was her father. We're trying to lure this man into this room, and when we got there, we were strapping his arms down his body, and we were going to perform an exorcism on him. So Tina had her holy water bowl, and she had like a thing, like, yeah, something big like this, like a crystal type thing, and kind of put it in, was just like throwing the water on him. I had an anointing oil or some holy oil that I put on his forehead, the cross, and I started to speak in Latin. Something.
You were saying
And
in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right?
yeah, and I command you in the name of Jesus Christ. Something like that. Jesus Christi. I don't know what happened. And and then my consciousness comes in. Me, Karen.
Karen here.
Karen here comes right into that body right when I'm talking in Latin, or it kind of reminded me a little bit of Italian. It sounds the same, you know? Spiritu Santi, like something like that. And I'm like, what the hell am I? What's going on here? Jesus Christi?
Just jump into the body in the middle of an exorcism.
Yeah, and I felt usually when that happens, my consciousness comes in and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But I felt like I had to continue. So I continued. And so I continued and I started to speak in English. So I was reciting the Our Father. And then like when we were doing the Our Father, like he started to rise a bit and he was like contorting, and his head jerked forward and his eyes were black. And I was just like, at the end of the Our Father, I'm like, okay, let's say it again. Our Father. Like, but like a little more powerful than that. I make it sound like goofy, but it's no, I was like really had to be in the character, whatever I was, that aspect of myself, to continue. Yeah. But he was an olive type skin color, skin tone. And I remember like as we were doing the exorcism itself, like he started to discolor and turn gray and um look like the skin was getting soft. Like, yeah, it was crazy. So I hope that we got the job done because I woke up. Let's pray. Well, I mean, my
Yeah.
consciousness jumped out, so I'm pretty sure like whatever was really running the show like stepped in and did the job, got the job done. But really interesting that we're like I was able to see that we do that
In other
elsewhere.
dimensions, yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever we were. Were we, did I look like me or I look different?
Um, I don't remember, but I just remember you being there, and like I just because I was like in front of you, more closer to him, and you were like behind, so I knew that you were like throwing like this the holy water. Like I was seeing your hands, but I just knew it was you.
Were we wearing priest's clothes?
I don't recall what we were wearing, to be honest.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just remember the straps, like putting on the straps, and yeah, like as we were in it, I was like, well, we are really doing this, so I can't just back down now. You gotta go do it live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really interesting. No wonder why we wake up exhausted.
You know, we're so dizzy. We're like, What now? Yeah.
Well, there's more people here. Well, do we have anything else to talk about?
No. It's 12:15. I mean, in the AM. Pretty hectic week. We caught up on a lot of work. I felt like as I moved that dense energy out of the way of my physical life, um, where like that opened up an influx of the clientele to come in. I think that was I had to get rid of that dead weight.
Yeah.
Not gonna talk about it because like we had to like really come back into our physical forms. Like we were being heavily psychic attacked, um, and still paying for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a learning too because it was an immediate thing that happened because I was even getting physically ill. It usually doesn't affect me physically, but it was physically affecting me. So it could have been like partially that and partially that earthbound that you saw that was attached to me. So I don't
Well,
know. There's
that Earthbound was related to that too.
yeah.
So yeah, that's another thing that's interesting too, is like Karen had an Earthbound with her that can't remember now.
It was like a grandmother spirit of yeah, a grandmother spirit that had attached because it was like waiting to cross over. So it came through someone who I had contact with. And so it came through to me to be
Right.
crossed over. And I took on some symptoms of this earthbound.
Physical
Physical.
symptoms. Yeah, really strange symptoms too. You know, and it's really interesting because a lot of times people get these symptoms, you know, and of course automatically think, well, there's something wrong with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? I need to go to the doctor. And here it's an earthbound that is attached to you energetically, causing these actual physical symptoms in your body, which is really wild when you think about it.
Right.
And you know, it's even difficult to believe unless you experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just crazy. I woke up with an excruciating headache that was in the base of my skull that would just kind of like go around my head and it was going up here and then down again under. And it was so bad that it made me very nauseous. I don't usually throw up because of headaches at all. I even took medication to just stop it, but it wasn't stopping. It was like getting stronger and stronger. So then I was just like, okay, you gotta throw up. I started I and I threw up quite a few times and I wasn't stopping. Like I just kept going and I had nothing left. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. Is this a gas show? Like what's happening? But yeah, Tina ended up clearing me and then it ended up coming as that earthbound. But then later on Monday, like putting the pieces of the puzzle together, because there's always a fucking puzzle to put together. Then it ended up being a psychic attack too. Like they were psychic attacks. And so hey Steve, welcome back. Paul has a couple questions, which is nice. What is the esoteric understanding of what a twin flame contact?
Karen?
Like, I don't know. Put me on the spot. You want to get the ball rolling?
Well,
I'll intervene.
a twin flame is a soul that comes from source and then splits in two, and then they go off on their own journeys. right? Through different lives and incarnations, and sometimes meet up in the physical. Usually for their last lifetime, they come together. And so there's a recognition there. It's like seeing yourself in the mirror, right?
Yeah, beautiful blonde. I tell myself.
And, not only is there, twin flames, I feel like can come in different forms. It doesn't always have to be romantic. And there's so much misconception over the twin flame thing. And everybody is just like waiting for their twin flame. It's like the big thing within the spiritual community now. Listen, twin flame relationships are not easy. They're not all romance. It's not rainbows and unicorns. A twin flame relationship is really about the work and the soul evolution. So if you're not willing to look deeply at yourself, like down to your core, then you don't want to be asking for your twin flame. You want to be asking for a
Soulmate,
soulmate.
maybe?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
soulmate. A soulmate is a nice, easy relationship. You get along, everything's good. There's not a lot of self-reflection that needs to happen. I mean, there's a little bit, of course, in every relationship, but twin flame relationships are really intense.
Optional. Well, all of it's optional, like if you want to call it a twin flame. But yeah, again, it's very hard for people to see themselves. It's very easy to project and to put it on the other person for ruining your life and blah, blah, blah. So I think like what I thought was a lot easier, at least for our union, was that we were able to hold the space for each other while we were growing and learning and releasing that codependence, like, and getting to know the self on a much more deeper level through the other as a mirror to just kind of show you, guiding your shadows. Come on, come
Guiding
here,
your shadows.
come hither, come on out.
Yeah. You have to be willing to do the shadow work because
Oh God, yes.
the twin is such a um, strong reflection. Like that's why you hear about people running and chasing. And not all twins are meant to be together in this lifetime, you know. Many are not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like you can move on and have a beautiful relationship with a soulmate and have a great life. It's actually easier. So
We're
yeah, they're
lucky.
really
We've jumped over through a lot of humps. Like a lot. I get a hump like once a month.
it's almost like the same soul in two different physical forms. And there's a lot of challenges that were put in place. So, there's culture, there's religion, there's borders, there's sex, there's gender, there's sometimes marriage, there's all of these obstacles that uh, were put in place to overcome, um, to make the evolution in the soul journey that much stronger and that much more, to be able to overcome all of the obstacles and um, kind of almost like a um, like a final exam, like, can we really do this? Let's see how much we can do in this life,
Right.
like how much we can overcome. Yeah. So it takes a lot of work to come into union because you have to come into union within yourself. It's really not about the other person at all. It's about coming into wholeness within yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Thanks, Paul, for that
That
question.
answers. Yeah.
Paul would also like to know what is the best protection for psychic attacks. So what we've been doing for psychic attacks, is we place mirrors all around ourselves. So you know how we place the protection? We'll put mirrors all around ourselves so that whatever psychic attacks are coming in will be deflected out and back to where it came from. So they kind of just get it back. Or I can't say it's like a revenge thing, but it's just like goes back to the source. Like we're like whoever is shooting it out is gonna get it back at them.
Right.
So
Right. Another great tool in the physical to use is quartz. Quartz is really great for psychic attacks, and sea salt as well. So like having sea salt around your home, even just like in bowls
yeah.
to absorb whatever is coming in, anything that will absorb the energy. But usually once you recognize it, like once you recognize what's actually happening and that you are being psychically attacked, usually that's enough to deflect it back to them,
Yeah.
you know.
You take your power back. Don't be
Right.
victimized by it. You're just like, absolutely not. I don't consent to that.
Right.
There was one time I got psychic attacked. I think I talked about it in several videos ago, but like my obsidian was, yeah, it was just like right here next to me. It wasn't on anything. And I was feeling the specific person come into my field. And as I was like telling her, get out, go away, like you're not welcome here. I was moving like, I don't remember what was on my bed, but it wasn't even touching, but my obsidian cracked. Like, as you can see, I've taped it together. Technically, like Tina says, I should give it back to the earth, but I have I guess, a very strong connection with this. I use it. I don't hold it anymore when I do readings. I actually use it um, as protection, like where it's at, like, to hold the field. So I do intend to
Yeah.
get a new one, but I really love this one because it really protected me from that attack. So, yeah.
So when you felt this person come into your field, then you noticed that your obsidian was broken.
Yeah.
So it absorbed that attack for you.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's what's great about black crystals, obsidian, tourmaline, shungite. They will absorb whatever is directed at you. I wear one around my neck. Also with a quartz to magnify the effects, because the quartz is going to magnify the effects of whatever crystal you're using. It's really like a universal kind of master crystal. Um,
Did we talk about
this
that
is
when we were on our trip? Oh, yeah, go.
a Lemurian crystal. It has like these ridges in it. So it's like, that's called a Lemurian seed crystal. And it's like encoded with information. What were you going to say?
I don't remember. Oh, no. When we were on our trip together, I think we should talk about it. How just our trip together last month, 2 months, no, I don't even know what month we are, January. And
Oh,
how
yeah, yeah.
our necklaces came off at two
Yeah.
separate places, times and places.
Yeah. That was wild.
Yeah. And did
If
the
you
same
ever
happen
have,
to Munchie too?
yeah, let me tell that story. That was crazy. So if you ever have like a necklace that just falls off for no reason, like the clasp isn't broken, nothing's wrong with it, just falls off, which is what happened to me on that street in New Hope when we were going to go into that psychic store.
I'm so against. What is that? A
Yeah,
bird?
that's weird. A fire alarm.
It happened last time.
Yeah,
Remember when we were on live?
yeah. It's not, that's really strange. That never goes off.
Yeah, it
Only
happened like,
that other time we were on live and that
yeah,
was
when
it.
we were talking about something specific.
Yeah, we were
This
talking
is a
about this.
specific.
We were talking about the secret space program. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When we were about to go into the psychic shop, this necklace fell right off my neck for no reason.
Well, for a reason, because I was like super against it. Maybe it was me who was just like, come off, crystal. Like, I really
Yeah.
didn't want to do it. I just felt like bad. Like this didn't feel good. So I'm like, okay, let's see if it's meant to be. So I rang the bell and then her crystal fell off. I'm like, let's go. Let's go. We're getting out of here. Like, keep walking. Like, that's a sign.
You can also grid your home too with like buy like raw obsidian or raw shungite or tourmaline and grid your home with it. And also like with the quartz, that's what I do. And around my bed as well to absorb any negative energy that's directed at you. Um, so I'll just call her my niece for lack of a better word. She's 7 and we went for this walk in a nearby park. And so there's like a kids playground there and there's a field with a path that you can walk around. And it was sunset, so it was starting to get dark. And we walked into this little gazebo and there was all this like graffiti in there from like you could tell it was like the teenagers from the neighborhood or whatever. And she started to get freaked out. Like she was feeling negative energy around. And I'm like, come on, let's just go for a walk around the field or whatever, go down this trail. Um, and yeah, she was just feeling like kind of freaked out about it. And we were walking down the trail and it was like along a tree line. And then all of a sudden, she was like, oh my God, Tina, this I forget what she called it. It was like this being came out of the woods and there was this sign there, like on the path. And she said that it peeked out around the sign and looked and then ran back. And she said that she heard the footsteps,
Mhm.
like of it coming through the woods. And then it came and peeked out and left. And she said it was all black. And in her mind she doesn't really know too much about spirit, so in her mind it was a real thing, it was a real being, like a monster or something.
Maybe it did
And
physically, or she saw it, you know?
yeah, um so she said it was all black and she was so freaked out. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let's get out of here. And I've always wondered why. And no one really goes to that park. It's beautiful. It's all brand new. Everything's new there, but no one ever really goes there. You don't see a lot of people there. And I've always felt really kind of weird there too. Um, so I thought that was really interesting. So we leave there and we get in the car and she wants me to leave the inside light on. So I leave the light on. I'm like, don't worry. Oh, this is the thing I wanted to say. She had a pendant on that she made in school. It was just glass. It wasn't any kind of crystal or anything. And she said something like uh, that her necklace protected her. And I was like, okay, if you believe that it does, then it does. So we leave, we get in the car, we drive down the street, we go in the supermarket to grab something. And as we're walking in the supermarket, her necklace falls off straight to the floor. And I was like, whoa, that was real. That really just happened.
Yeah.
And so whatever energy was directed at her or us was just absorbed by that piece of glass on her necklace.
Yeah. I remember when you told me that, I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
that was crazy.
Steven says CO2 detector, battery low.
Mm, I don't know. It stopped, so I guess we're good. So yeah, you can use crystals, salt, but really just your intention to deflect that back once you realize what's happening is a good way. And for everyday protection, just putting on your armor of God, deflecting your light outwards, to camouflage yourself from dark energies, you can actually use ash, so incense ash or any kind of sacred ash. You can just take some, put it on the top of your head, your shoulders, and the bottoms of your feet. And that will help to camouflage you from negative entities because they're not looking, it's kind of like playing dead because, you know, they're not looking for dead things. They're looking for life to siphon. So using ash, even like when you're out in public, if you want to shield yourself from any of the kind of nasty energies that are floating around right now out there, a good technique to use is to call in the black flame. So calling in the black flame and surrounding yourself in that while you're out is also kind of like a camouflage, and it's organic darkness, and it will absorb any of that negativity that is, you know, nanobots and such that are floating around out there right now. So, yeah. Any more questions?
Mm-mm. Excuse me.
Anything
Felt like
else?
this week was like super long. No? Did you feel that?
Yeah.
Fast and long at the same time? I don't even know. Like after we do readings and sessions, like I feel like it's been so like time has passed, elapsed, like
Well, like you said, I feel like we go into some kind of portal
excuse me.
or
Yeah.
something while we're working, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the
No, we definitely do.
time becomes weird, fluid, like.
Yeah.
All right, well, if nobody has any questions, I guess we'll get going. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, please like, subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah. And
Comment.
we love your comments. We appreciate you guys so much. And yeah, be gentle with yourselves. There's a lot going on right now, lots of intense energy. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you feel called to have a spiritual health check, please reach out to us. Quantum Healing with Tena.com and check out our services under Remote Spirit Release. Or any other stuff if you're curious.
Yeah. BQH sessions are great for connecting with your own higher self, for healing, for answering questions that you've had all of your life that you've always wondered about or needed answers for. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here.
See
Thank
you
you
next
to all
time.
who participated and spoke, and to I'm assuming that there's people there that aren't what do you call it? Have an
Okay.
account or are us like stalking us. Just kidding. Or not. We'll see. We see you.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time, guys. Sending you so much love.